Maxillary first molar. In this video we are going to discuss about the occlusal aspect in detail. From occlusal aspect we can appreciate a rhomboidal shape. This rhomboidal shape is outlined by the four major cusp ridges and marginal ridges. The mesiobuccal and the distolingual line angle forms an acute angle, whereas the mesiolingual and distobuccal line angle forms an obtuse angle. The area which lies mesial to the buccal and lingual developmental groove is greater than the area which lies distal to it. Similarly, the area which lies lingual to the contact area is greater than the area which lies buccal to it. Thus, it is apparent that the maxillary first molar is wider mesially and lingually. There are four major cusps and one additional cusp. The mesiolingual cusp is the largest of all the cusps. It is followed in size by mesiobuccal, distobuccal, distolingual, and fifth cusp. We can see a triangular arrangement present on all the maxillary molars. Mesiolingual, mesiobuccal, and distobuccal cusp contribute to this triangular arrangement. So, they are also known as maxillary molar primary cusp triangle. Distolingual cusp is not part of this triangular arrangement. The size of distolingual cusp keep on decreasing as it moves from maxillary first molar to the third molar. As distolingual cusp is present on all the maxillary molars, it is one of the primary cusp. Whereas the fifth cusp, also known as cusp of cerebri, is an additional cusp, so it is also known as secondary cusp. This is present on the lingual surface of the crown attached to the mesiolingual cusp. Mesial marginal ridge and the distal marginal ridge are irregular and they converge with the mesial and the distal cusp ridge of the mesial and distal major cusp. Morphological feature: oblique ridge. As the name suggests, this ridge crosses the occlusal table obliquely. It is formed by the union of the triangular ridge of the distobuccal cusp and the distal ridge of the mesiolingual cusp. In the center, the height of the oblique ridge is reduced to the height of the occlusal surface. Sometimes this ridge is crossed by a developmental groove. When it does, it is known as transverse groove of oblique ridge. Fossas. There are four fossas present on the maxillary first molar, two major and two minor. Central fossa and the distal fossa are the two major fossas. The two minor fossas are the mesial triangular fossa and the distal triangular fossa. Mesial triangular fossa lies immediately distal to the mesial marginal ridge, whereas the distal triangular fossa lies immediately mesial to the distal marginal ridge. Central fossa. Central fossa is bound by the crest of the oblique ridge and the crest of the two triangular ridges of the mesiobuccal and mesiolingual cusp. In the center, there is a central pit. From central pit, buccal developmental groove radiates buccally and it continues to the buccal surface of the crown between the two buccal cusps. Again, starting from the central pit, we can see central developmental groove which progresses in the mesial direction, forming an obtuse angle to the buccal's developmental groove. This central groove ends somewhere near at the apex of the mesial triangular fossa, where it is joined by the supplemental grooves which radiates to the end of the triangular fossa. These supplemental grooves appear as branches of the central groove. Sometimes these supplemental grooves even cross the mesial marginal ridge. Along with the buccal in the central developmental groove, we can also see short developmental groove radiating from the central pit in the distal direction. Usually it is very short in its length, but sometimes it is long enough to cross the oblique ridge. When it does, it is known as transverse groove of oblique ridge. Mesial triangular fossa. This fossa does not have a very clear outline. It is generally triangular in shape. The base of this fossa is at the mesial marginal ridge. The apex lies somewhere where the central groove ends. Distal triangular fossa. The distal oblique groove is joined by several supplemental grooves at its end. These supplemental grooves act as the two sides of distal triangular fossa. The two sides, along with the slope mesial to the distal marginal ridge, forms the distal triangular fossa. Distal fossa. Distal fossa lies distal to the oblique ridge. It is traversed by the irregular developmental distal oblique groove. Later, this groove is joined by the lingual developmental groove. The lingual developmental groove continues to the lingual surface of the tooth and ends somewhere in the center of the crown. If any groove is present along the fifth cusp, then it is known as fifth cusp groove. If this groove is prominent enough, then we will see that it ends somewhere near at the end point of the lingual developmental groove. This finishes our occlusal surface of the maxillary first molar and also the entire anatomy of the maxillary first molar video series. I hope you guys learned something. If you did, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.